What's up, everyone? My name is Ale. Welcome back to my world of stocks. Now, I know this isn't technically in the title, but today's video is actually going to be another episode of our Stocks My Viewers Want Me to Review series. And if you want to see past episodes, I'll link the playlist for that series down in the description. But in this latest episode, we have a comment from Karma009 who asks, could we delve into an examination of Nvidia? Are we witnessing the early stages of its ascent, or has it already peaked? Or is it not a once in a lifetime investment opportunity? What is the connection to AI, and why aren't there other chip companies on par with Nvidia? Well, Karma, I love your comments because you worded it perfectly. Nvidia stock has absolutely skyrocketed recently to an all-time high, and it's now carrying a super high, super rich valuation. But we know that they have huge future potential, especially with artificial intelligence, which we also know is going to likely be the next big mega trend within tech. So, is the huge run up in Nvidia stock justified because of their massive potential? Or is the valuation just way too rich that we should be avoiding the stock or maybe even selling it? Well, as a lot of you know, Nvidia is actually one of my largest holdings in my portfolio. So I'm going to be tackling this question from the perspective of an actual shareholder myself. And I'm going to talk to you about that valuation. We'll take a look at how rich and expensive it really is. I will also talk about their future potential, why Nvidia really stands out among the competition. Are they special? I'm going to try to address those questions as a shareholder. And of course, I'm also going to let you know what I plan to do myself with my Nvidia stock or with any other Nvidia stock. What am I planning to do? Am I going to buy, hold, sell? I'm going to address all of that stuff in today's video. So should be a fun one, guys. I hope you enjoy it. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. And let's start by taking a closer look at the stock and everything that's going on right now. Okay, well, just pulling up the stock chart, we can see right away that it's not only skyrocketed by about 200% just this year alone in 2023, but from its 52-week low, it has more than quadrupled in size, leaving it now trading at easily an all-time high and well above a $1 trillion market cap. And how big of a deal is that? It's no big deal, really nothing here. Nvidia is just the 6th largest company in the entire world now. Guys, this is so freaking crazy. They are now worth more than Meta, more than Berkshire Hathaway, and even more than Tesla. And they are only behind the biggest behemoths ever, like Amazon, Google, Saudi Aramco, Microsoft, and Apple, which is just really so insane to think about. By the way, Apple is almost at $3 trillion themselves, and that's pretty scary to see because I don't think they should be trading really anywhere close to that. And some of these values here on this list just make me a bit worried about a possible bubble bursting in the future. But staying on the topic of specifically Nvidia, how does all of this translate over to their valuation? Well, I would say that this too is just as scary. You're now talking about a trailing price to sales ratio of over 41. For some context, it was as low as 11 just last year. Now, to be fair, the thing about Nvidia, kind of like their saving grace, is their very strong margins and profitability, and especially their giant future potential. And so that's where you see things get at least somewhat more reasonable with a price to earnings ratio that improves from 222 trailing all the way down to 57 forward, although it's still a bit higher than the less than 30 it was at last year. Still, it gets even better on a more future-looking price to earnings to growth ratio of less than 2.5, considering it was almost double that amount at the start of the year. And that tells me that future projections have gone way up for Nvidia, as analysts have become way more bullish on their future prospects, especially with artificial intelligence, which is why that PEG ratio has gone down by so much over the past few months alone, even though the stock price has actually skyrocketed. And the valuation continues to get even more reasonable when you adjust it to a non-GAAP measure and compare it to the rest of the sector as well as their own 5-year average. Granted, forward PE is still over 140% more expensive than the sector median and 26% more expensive than their own 5-year average, but something that you might find shocking here is how their adjusted PEG ratio actually sits at only 1.5, which, if you can believe it, it's almost 17% cheaper than the sector. That's right, I said cheaper. This is according to Seeking Alpha here, and it's even more pronounced compared to their own 5-year average, where it's almost 35% cheaper as well. That's pretty freaking crazy, guys, considering the giant run up in the stock price to actually be cheaper still than the sector on that forward PEG ratio is just, nothing short of remarkable. You really wouldn't expect to see that. And on one hand, that's obviously a good thing. You want analysts to be very bullish on a company's future prospects if you're investing in them. Okay, that goes without saying. However, I actually see this as pretty worrisome because I believe that what we have now is a stock here that is absolutely priced to perfection. Not only are they expected to have a ton of future potential, but they are expected to absolutely excel in that potential in everything that they do. They have to perform at the highest levels now, and falling short of any of that, I think you're going to see heavy damage on the stock price at these very high levels at this rich valuation. There's just no way to sugarcoat that. You have to perform. You fall short of it, you're going to take damage because of that rich valuation. But that also brings up the other questions that Karma asked. What makes Nvidia so special? What's their future opportunity to begin with? And, why are they expected to perform so well in this crowded market, in the crowded AI market with so many competitors? Well, I can't give my overall complete opinion on this stock without first addressing some of those questions too. So let's explore some of those. Let's take a look at what their future opportunities are. Let's see if the hype is real with Nvidia. I'll give you my opinion on it, and then I'll let you know what I'm doing myself as a shareholder. Okay, well, for starters, Nvidia originally gained notoriety for their high-performance GPU chips that were used for gaming and graphical design, usually within the confines of a personal computer. However, in recent years, their GPUs have become so powerful that they are now being used to power massive data centers and in robotics and in autonomous vehicles and for processing giant amounts of data from the Internet of Things or smart cities or on high-performance supercomputers that specialize in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and they're even used for cryptocurrency mining as well as developing even the metaverse. And let's just be clear about this. Nvidia has gigantic growth opportunities in every single one of those markets, and that's why they estimate that their total addressable market sits somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 trillion. Now, for context, they only did less than 27 billion in all of last year, so that's more than 37 times their current size. And again, the key thing to remember about Nvidia is that they have very strong margins, which means a gigantic amount of that money could go straight to the bottom line. In fact, their margin percentage leads the sector by over 14% higher gross profit, over 300% higher EBIT, close to 200% higher EBITDA, over 800% higher net income, and over 200% higher free cash flow as well. And look, I know a $1 trillion addressable market seems way too high to believe that it's real, but I actually think that it's a lot more reasonable than you might expect. I mean, artificial intelligence alone is estimated to grow over 20% per year, reaching over $2 trillion by 2030 just by itself. And some estimates go as high as over 15 trillion as part of the global GDP. And when you look at the biggest areas that will utilize AI, these research firms, they always point to markets that Nvidia completely dominates. Like, for example, they point to language models used by ChatGPT and other, chatbot platforms. They talk about hardware, software, services, cloud, how it's expected to revolutionize gaming, how it's needed for smart cities to quickly analyze and process giant amounts of data like in real time, how it'll be huge for supercomputing, the metaverse, and so on. And many of these individual markets will be worth trillions of dollars too. Smart cities, for example, is estimated to be worth over 6 trillion by 2030, growing at over 25% per year. The data center is estimated estimated for over half a trillion by 2026, with over 20% growth per year. Same thing with gaming at over half a trillion by 2030. The autonomous vehicle market is estimated to surpass 2 trillion by 2030 at over a 40% growth rate. The metaverse market is over 3 trillion by 2027 with almost 70% growth, which I'm not sure how much I believe those numbers, but even just a fraction of that would still be huge. And then even just a few weeks ago, Bloomberg put out a report that generative AI, which is the market fueled by Chat GPT and large language models, could grow by as much as 42% per year, reaching over $1 trillion by 2032 as well. And remember when Karma asked how Nvidia stacks up against the competition? Well, not only does ChatGPT's training processes run on the supercomputer Selene, which is built and owned by Nvidia themselves, but in fact, Nvidia also powers 8 of the top 10 largest and fastest supercomputers in the entire world that specifically perform AI-related computing, as well as nearly 70% of the top 500 supercomputers as well. So clearly, Nvidia is the preferred partner when it comes to AI. In fact, even giant companies have collaborated with Nvidia to build custom supercomputers, just like Meta did for their own metaverse, and Nvidia's own Omniverse platform, which is kind of like a hybrid metaverse that is used for real-world applications, is already being used by other giants like Amazon and PepsiCo. But it doesn't stop there. Nvidia also commands by far the most market share for AI processors used in the cloud and in data centers at over 80%. They already have close to 400 partners for their autonomous driving platform, including giants like Mercedes, Jaguar, Volvo, BYD, and even smaller startups like NIO, Lucid, Xpeng, and more that already amounts to an $11 billion pipeline. They're also considered the gold standard in gaming. I mean, just ask any serious gamer out there, they'll tell you. They've been working on a cutting-edge smart cities platform called Metropolis for at least the past decade. And when you add up everything in total, the new AI research report from JP Morgan actually makes some really bold claims about Nvidia. They estimate that Nvidia may capture as much as 60% of all AI-related spending this year. To give you an idea of just how crazy that sounds, the next closest competitor on the list is Broadcom at only 13%, while both Intel and AMD sit below only 1% each. So in other words, Nvidia is just flat out leading the pack when it comes to AI chips, at least for right now. They're just the overall most trusted and most used in the space, and that's how they compare it to the competition, very strongly. So yes, the valuation is crazy high, and yes, I do think that it's way too expensive at these levels, but the question is, will the market even care about that when you're dealing with so much insane future potential? I don't know, my gut tells me that over the longer term, the market is probably not going to care that much because of everything that Nvidia is capable of, but that's only if the market itself as a whole remains healthy during that time, which is so far from being guaranteed at this point. Because not only is Nvidia already priced to perfection, in my opinion, but guys, there is still an economic recession on the table, and I know the market isn't really pricing that in right now because the Fed recently paused rates this past month, their rate hikes, but they could easily just start raising rates again next month or later in the year. And anytime that you're raising interest rates, the risk of a recession goes up right along with it. And while Nvidia is, in my opinion, way ahead of the competition right now, technology is something that is always evolving and changing, and all it takes is a new rising threat to emerge with better performance or cheaper prices to convince one of Nvidia's partners or some of them to switch over, or to give one of Nvidia's competitors a try, and then analysts start lowering targets. It snowballs into a falling stock price. So those are things that can always happen. I'm not necessarily too worried about all of that because I'm still investing in Nvidia very long term. I believe very strongly about Nvidia. I want to hold them for decades into the future. The short-term noise doesn't really bother me too much. The bigger concern for me would be the uncertainty within the economy and the market, because I do think there's going to be more volatility over the next year, and I do think that the stock will probably see some dips and perhaps better buying opportunities. Now, I will be completely transparent with you guys with my stock. I did do some trimming because it had at one point risen to my number one largest holding in my portfolio, which is pretty crazy because I try to only keep my most my safest, best investments as my core foundational stocks at the very top. Notably, in recent years, it's been Microsoft as my number one largest holding, and Nvidia actually overtook them. So I had to trim Nvidia back down. I had to cash in some profits on it. And now Nvidia stock is like my third largest in my portfolio. But I would like it to probably go down even further to like fourth or fifth, because there's other stocks out there that I think are much safer that I would like to have ahead of it, like Amazon or Google, stocks like that. And of course, Microsoft is my number one holding. So even right now, I'm still up over 800% on my Nvidia position. So I'm doing very well on it, and it's one of my largest holdings. But I'm just kind of planning to hold the rest of it into the long term. If it continues to rise, I may have to do some trimming again, and that's okay. I'm one of those people that, doesn't mind doing some trimming or adjusting in his portfolio if things ever get off balance or a little out of whack. I'll do some trimming, I'll do some adjustments on it. But for the most part, it's more of just kind of a long-term hold for me as of right now. I very strongly believe in them, but I think some of these very high growth markets that they have opportunities in are going to take time to mature before you really see Nvidia start to take full advantage of them. And I just think it's going to take time. So this is a very long-term hold for me. If I did not already have Nvidia stock, I would probably wait for some dips because I just think it's so highly priced at the moment. But since I already have it, since I'm already up on it, I'm just going to be kind of holding the rest of it and maybe making little adjustments here and there if it messes up my portfolio at all. Which, by the way, I got to make an update video on my portfolio. Let me know if you'd want to see that down in the comment section, but that's a video that I should be making soon because it's been a while since we've talked about all my stocks. But I think I've covered just about everything. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comment section if there's anything I missed or if there's anything you'd like to add to the conversation. We can talk about it. Thank you for all the support, everyone. Thank you to everyone who helps me out on Patreon, helps keep this channel alive. It means the world to me, so thank you. And I hope that you're all doing well. Let me know how you feel about Nvidia stock, and I wish you the best with any investment decisions you all make. But I will catch you in the next video, my friends. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.